Idiocracy has become one of the most celebrated comedies of the 2000s. But behind the scenes, the studio seemed determined to make sure it failed, because they gutted its budget, tried to hide its release from the public, and made several decisions that are still being questioned today. In fact, the movie only got made because of Mike Judge's contractual obligations with the studio.
I owed Fox a screenplay and I pitched 2 or 3 different things and they said, oh, that's the commercial one, that's the one you should make.
So he embarked on writing a screenplay centered around an alternative take on the human race.
And I'd gotten the idea when I was writing the Beavis and Butthead movie that it just favors whoever has the most kids. And I was just thinking about that, and then I started thinking there could be something funny. I'd watched 2001 again and just thought, wouldn't that have been funny if that movie was just, giant Walmarts and the Jerry Springer Show and instead of this. So I just thought, what if you just charted from the 60s to now and just kept going out in that direction for another 500 years?
From there, he detached Eitan Cohen, who would later go on to co-write Tropic Thunder, to help bring this script to life.
And then what was great about that was Mike Judge said, well, I remember you wrote some of the more offensive episodes of Beavis and Butthead. So I got this idea for this movie, Idiocracy, and maybe you could come help me with that.
And they used real-life inspiration to help write the story.
I was at Disneyland with my daughters. This redneck mama behind me with her 2 little kids. A Mexican woman comes up. This woman behind me starts going, yeah, say that to my face, bitch. I'll kick your f***ing ass, bitch. Come over here. And she's yelling back, and I'm just thinking Disneyland and the teacup rides.
Which no doubt translated on screen.
Where's Officer Collins?
Shut up!
Why you keep trying to read that word? You a
Your face.
You're in the wrong line, dumbass. Over there.
This sort of behavior definitely contributed to several scenes in the movie, such as the courtroom disaster.
Prosecute him. Why you think you done it?
Okay, number 1, Your Honor. Just look at him.
He talks like a too.
We've got all this, evidence of how, this guy didn't even pay at the hospital. And I heard that he doesn't even have his tattoo. Judge should be guilty. Peace.
I object that he interrupted me while I was watching Oh My Balls! That is not okay!
You did!
Which is oddly similar to the dynamic in a courtroom that took place nearly a decade after Idiocracy was released.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now. Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No, I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to stand and represent my
sit down.
client.
If you want to fight, let's go out back, and I'll just beat your ass.
I'm also reminded of this hearing that actually took place in the city I live in a couple years back. It's nowhere near as aggressive as the previous one, but it definitely feels like something straight out of Idiocracy.
Are you driving?
Actually, I'm pulling into my doctor's office, actually.
So maybe I don't understand something. This is a driving while license suspended?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And he was just driving. He didn't have a license. So defendant's bond is revoked in this matter. Defendant is to turn himself into the Washington County Jail by 6 p.m. today. Failure to turn himself in will result in a bench warrant with no bond.
Then there was the bit about Starbucks. One of my favorite gigs from the movie that he also based on real life.
The Starbucks, because I remember actually driving on I-35, it was a tanning salon, it said exotic tan for men. I had no idea that tanning salons had turned into, hand job places or whatever it was. So I was just talking to friends of mine and going, wow, I wonder what's next. I mean, is it going to be like Starbucks?
But there was actually a real problem about this within the legal department, and it almost didn't even make it into the final film.
How I'm going to come up with something better than the Starbucks thing. It's not funny if it's not a known place, and so, they said no, and then they said, I just said, so what, can it be satire? And they said, well, what would help us is if you didn't just pick on them, if it was a bunch of companies. And I was like, okay.
This would also prove to be problematic down the road for the movie, which we'll touch on in a bit. But I'm sure these additions were what helped land Costco in the movie, leading to my 2 favorite bits in the entire movie.
Welcome to Costco. I love you. Welcome to Costco. I love you. Yeah, I know this place is pretty good. I went to law school here.
In Costco?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it myself. Luckily, my dad was an alumnus and pulled some strings.
So they finally had a finished script and were ready to get into casting. But then they ran into yet another problem that would make it impossible to make the movie at the time.
In 2002, and couldn't get anybody to be the lead in it. Nobody wanted to do it. I rewrote it, and maybe it was a little better, but one of the things about that movie, it was sort of a bigger concept than it was a movie.
Thankfully, many years later, after several rejections, they finally landed Luke Wilson to star in it, and it was now becoming a reality. But by then, Fox had already had enough, with cinematographer Timothy Sarstedt saying, quote, "It was a very frustrating process for Mike because he had his deal at Fox. I think it was pretty clear by the time he got around to making Idiocracy that not only did he not want to work with Fox, they didn't really want to work with him. I've seen this happen before, but this was the most egregious, where a studio doesn't want to make the movie, but even more than that, they don't want another studio to have success with it if they turn it down." While he didn't elaborate on his point, I have to imagine Fox was at their wits' end because of the lengthy and bumpy script writing phase. But none of this really makes any sense, given how enthusiastic and encouraging they were at the beginning of the journey. But they would continue on to casting. Terry Crews, who plays the president, has gone on to become one of the most iconic characters in the film.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of America! Shut up! Sit your monkey ass down. I know shit's bad right now, with all that starving bullshit, and the dust storms, and we running out of French fries and burrito coverings.
Yeah.
But I got a solution.
That's what you said last time, dipshit.
I got a solution. You're a dick.
South Carolina, what's up?
But he said the audition process was downright grueling.
I had to audition for this movie probably 7 different times, which is really unusual. Usually, if you get a call back, you might get 2 or 3 at the most. I remember when Mike Judge said, "You got the gig." The casting director, Mary Vernew, she said, "Terry, if I told you who and how many other people were going for this gig, you would be intimidated." She was like, "You won." And she's like, there were some big, big names going for this president role. And I was like, oh my God. And they were like, but Mike wanted you. That's why we kept calling you back.
Much like the writing team, he also drew inspiration from real life.
I knew President Camacho. He reminded me in church where you had a pastor or a preacher who you knew was a hustler. If you just put $5 in the box, $5 will get you what you want. And I was like, that's the guy. He's a wrestler. He's an ex-porn star. He's a charismatic person who's just bigger than life, and he wants to run the world.
They'd round out the cast with the likes of SNL star Maya Rudolph, punk star Dax Shepard, and a rising star but unsung hero thanks to his legendary cameo, Justin Long.
Don't want to sound like a dick or nothing, but it says on your chart that you're fucked up. You talk like a and your shit's all retarded. What I do is just like, now there are plenty of out there living really kick-ass lives. I need help. There's that talk we talked about.
Pre-production was definitely rocky, but it would pale in comparison to the absolute mess of a production this movie would undergo. It all started with the budget Fox gave them. Production designer Darren Guilford recounts, "I remember having a conversation with Mike Nelson, who's the producer, back when I took the movie. It was like, here's the money, you have to make this movie. You either make it for this, or we're gonna find somebody else." I remember sitting in that room thinking, I'm gonna agree to do this movie, knowing there's no way in hell we're ever gonna be able to figure this out. Of course, this meant there was little funding for the wardrobe department as well, leading to both a unique and ironic decision.
Costume designers. She had a limited budget also, and for the shoes, so we shot it in 2004. She tells me, okay, there's a startup, and it was Crocs, but they weren't out in the world yet. But it was a small company, and she goes, look at these horrible plastic shoes with holes in them. She said, we could really save a lot of money, just put everyone in these things. And then I said, what if these become popular and people are wearing them? She said, oh, these are never going to become popular. But then people are going like, oh, that's pretty funny that you put everyone in Crocs.
And the irony didn't stop there, because Luke Wilson feared what they were shooting was a little too out there, not knowing how the movie would age.
saying like, well, Mike, are you sure that we can do this? And he'd be like, you don't think it's funny? And I'd be like, well, I think it's funny, but I mean, I'm totally immature. But I mean, is this going to be able to fly? In the last administration, they did hire somebody with a cabinet job that was actually from Carl's Jr. And I thought, okay, now that is pretty incredible.
Left and right, Mike Judge was unintentionally predicting the future. From courtrooms to Crocs to now even politics, everything that was supposed to just be a gag became eerily accurate down the road. But it wasn't just the budget that made this production a living hell. They also had awful luck with the elements.
I feel like it was cursed to begin with. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like so many things, like we shot it here in Austin. It's supposed to take place in a drought, and it was like the rainiest summer. We had to keep killing grass.
By the time they finished filming the movie, they ran into yet another f*** you from the studio. This time, they decided to gut the special effects budget, despite knowing how much this movie relied on effects. They wouldn't budge at all, and the only way for it to work out was for Mike to go behind the studio's back and get help from another legendary director.
Nickel and diming me on effects so badly, there was a point where I'll pay for this myself. I'll pay $30,000 to not have another one of these meetings. And I actually ended up, without even telling them, Robert Rodriguez has in Austin, he has his own special effects people, and he said, look, I'm in between movies. They actually did a couple effects shots. It's like
just to help out.
Free, yeah.
This really tells you everything you need to know about Mike and Robert Rodriguez. A lot of directors would have waved the white flag at this point. In fact, I'm sure there's an alternate reality where someone else is directing this movie and things get so bad that the movie doesn't even get released. Mike's passion, patience, and ability to deal with all the nonsense that the studio threw at him is why this movie turned out as well as it did. Something I find so admirable is that despite everything going on, Mike appeared to be a stand-up guy, with production designer Darren Guilford saying, I think it was really hard on him, and I don't think he got the support that he deserved and he needed. He was never rude, and he was never disrespectful, but it was hard. It feels ridiculous to say this, but despite how much of a living hell pre-production and production were, nothing would be more infuriating than how the studio treated the release of this movie. And it all started with the testing of the film.
It didn't test very well, which a lot of movies don't. They have these sheets and it says excellent, very good, good, fair, and poor. For it to count at all, it has to be excellent or very good, I think. We would get like a 70% very good and excellent. That's considered a horrible score.
Which led to all sorts of ideas from the studio as to why it wasn't testing great. And some of these hypotheses were really grasping at straws.
There was one guy who got it in his head that the problem with the movie was Dax's voice, and he wanted Dax to completely loop the entire movie in a different voice. It's always nice to hear that people like Dax in that movie, but it's weird how one person in a studio can get in your head and go like, shit, maybe he's right.
I really don't get this at all. The whole point of the movie was that everyone was an idiot. If anything, I thought Dax's voice actually enhanced the film.
Get out of here!
No, wait, listen. You let me, an innocent man, get thrown in jail.
So, shut up, 'cause you broke my house.
Hey, I could have you disbarred for what you did to me. Then maybe you'd go to jail for not having any money.
Oh, really?
But what can you expect? Based on everything about Fox's actions up to this point, it should come as no surprise that they were this clueless. These test screenings came with severe consequences, though.
They made some horrible trailers for it, and I was glad they didn't put those out because they weren't very good. And then they just said, look, we don't want to spend a lot of money promoting it, and they dumped the movie.
They didn't even screen the movie for critics, and they showed it in the bare minimum theaters that they legally could.
There was a contractual obligation. They had to put it in like 12 theaters, and that's all they did.
In fact, they even tried to further sabotage the release by hiding the title of the movie.
When they released it, if you called like Fandango back then, sometimes it was listed as Untitled Mike Judge Project, which no one's ever tried to buy a ticket to Untitled Mike Judge. Yeah, it wasn't even labeled correctly.
As you can probably guess, Idiocracy was a massive theatrical flop, not even grossing $500,000. But this is where things really get interesting. Because even though Mike Judge took the high road and just chalked this all up to less than stellar testing, Terry Crews offered up an alternative perspective.
The rumor was because we used real corporations, these companies gave us their name thinking they were going to get pumped up. All these real corporations are like, wait a minute. Carl's Jr.
Welcome to Carl's Jr. Would you like to try our
extra big ass taco?
And so Fox decided we're going to release this in as few theaters as legally possible over one weekend, and it was sucked out into the vortex.
I don't know what the truth is, and I'm not sure that anyone really does, but given he was one of the movie's stars, it at least felt fair to share this. Regardless, there's real irony to how this release was treated, because the movie has actually been viewed highly by both critics and audiences. And I know I've said this about at least 5 different movies already, but I promise this was not a common thing. Idiocracy was one of the rare R-rated comedies from the 2000s that was celebrated by both critics and audiences. And it's debatably the most talked about 2000s comedy in present day. Had Fox given this film a chance, it easily could have made massive profits at the box office. There was just no need to hide it. Funny enough, I actually remember when this movie came out. One of my friend's parents really loved it, and it was always on my list of movies to watch when I got older. I watched it for the first time over spring break my junior year of college when I was visiting a friend in Nashville, and it was really funny. We had a ton of fun watching it. I've seen it a few times since then, including this past weekend when I was prepping for this video, and I swear this movie gets so much better with age.
Okay, how about this? You get me to the time machine, and when I get back, I open a savings account in your name. That way, 500 years later, it'll be worth billions.
Oh, I like money.
Yeah.
How many billions?
$30 billion.
What's the minus of 30 and 20?
It's 80, Frito. It's $80 billion. That's a mighty big minus, isn't it?
Yeah. I like money, though. He's somewhere else.
Okay, sir, we're coming in.
No, you can't come in.
Can't too.
But as much as I want to celebrate this film, its gruesome production and release had severe implications on those involved. It took such a massive toll that Mike Judge doesn't even like thinking about the movie to this day.
And then I feel like the curse of the movie kind of just spread out into the world or something. I was just thinking about this because I have a hard time watching it because it just brings back so many stressful memories.
Darren Gilford felt like it really set back the beginning of his career, saying, quote, "It was a huge stain on my career for years, before it became a cult classic, and before it was something I was really proud of. Honestly, I had to keep it off my resume for years to try and get another movie." I mean, that's insane to think about in hindsight. It's such a shame that a movie that's brought so much joy to so many people has caused so much pain to those who helped create it. It's not all bad though, as the movie has since become a cult classic and has led to delayed recognition for those involved.
When Time magazine calls you at the beginning of this whole election cycle a couple years back, and they're like, "Do we want some quotes on you on how the election is going? And do you think it's becoming what this is?" I'm going, oh, this is way more important than we ever thought.
It was also the reason why Eitan Cohen rose up the ranks as a writer.
Led to Ben Stiller seeing that movie. I guess maybe he knew Mike and then said, "I've got this idea for this movie, Tropic Thunder." And I got to do that with him.
Maya Rudolph would also get to headline the comedy classic Bridesmaids many years later, and has even had a few kids with Paul Thomas Anderson. I'm sure the box office result didn't help Luke Wilson's career at all. He never quite took off like his brother Owen, but he's still been quite active in the industry despite not being a leading man. And Mike Judge would get the opportunity to direct again just a few years later. The movie was Extract, and one that I find to be incredibly underrated.
Hey, listen, real quick, while I've got you here, what are you guys doing November 17th?
On the 17th, I think that we're out of town.
Wait a minute. I meant the 7th. You guys will definitely be in town then, right?
Yep.
Great. And we would like to invite you and Susie to be our guests at our table.
Nathan, I don't think that that's something that we're going to want to do.
Why not? It's a lot of fun.
Susie doesn't like going to those kinds of things.
I'm going to go ahead and buy those tickets since they're going to sell out fast. You talk to Susie, see what she says. Maybe I'll have Leslie give her a call. You know how it is when the wives start talking.
As far as a sequel for Idiocracy goes, Terry Crews is all about it.
Mike and I were talking about doing like a Chronicles of Camacho, you know what I mean? And we all know where it started. It started in this era right now.
Right. And Mike hasn't ruled it out either.
Kind of close to maybe making an animated series about it. And I don't know, it keeps coming back around. Yeah, I don't know why I can't make a movie that's a hit when it comes out, but they've been kicking it around, possibly making doing something with it, so I don't know.
By the way, my directorial debut, a 2000-style stoner comedy, is actually now streaming for free on Tubi. One thing is clear though, regardless of the tragedy surrounding Idiocracy, with time, it's become a classic, much like Role Models. Even though it didn't flop like Idiocracy, it still massively underperformed and had everything working against it. Careers were on the line, they needed to rewrite the script during the writer's strike, and the craziest part is that Role Models was originally supposed to be a hard-hitting drama, not a comedy. But it doesn't even stop there, and I take you on this wild journey here.